Dan, I was thinking.
What were you thinking, Chris?
Sometimes when I close my eyes, I can't see. That's it, kids. That's FC3 Monkey Business, your one-stop shop for everything geeky, and everything can be geeky when you love it enough. Starring the inimitable Daniel Carmen, the irrepressible Tanya Metris, the irrecoverable Billy DeTore, and the irritable Christopher Frank. I am your host. That is me. My name is Chris, and I am talking to you from the studios of WFC3 somewhere in a secret location on the west side of the city of Rochester, New York. Hoping all of you are well, because I'm not.
I tell you, we have had the worst luck with technology.
Yeah, you know what? We can complain, and rightfully so, and we have lots of valid complaints to voice. But the thing is every time we've managed to figure it out.
Yes.
So we have to pat ourselves on. We have to look at the positives. We've been able to get past a lot of the issues and keep on keeping on, and that's important, I think.
And
Today the answer was I'm a dum-dum.
No.
What flavor? They're good,
What
good
flavor
little
dum-dum?
lollipops.
I just watched
Tanya, the ever hopeful.
I was
the
going to say,
museum
cotton
last night, and
candy
they had
seems to be a favorite at our house.
I watched Night at the Museum last night. The big statue goes, "Dum Dum, hey Dum Dum."
Oh, Dum Dum want gum gum.
Yep.
That's great. That's great. Dan, did you like my opening quote for today?
Yes, I did.
I was thinking of you. I was thinking of you when I picked that one, because it's the kind of joke that you would say normally back in the day.
That's right. When I close my eyes, it's really dark.
Yeah.
Underneath my clothing, completely naked.
Woohoo! It was either that one or Dance Like Nobody's Watching, because they're all checking their phones.
Yeah.
I'd like to dance like nobody's watching. I do it all the time across my classroom. And then the kids will look up and like, no, don't do that again.
Because they were watching.
Yeah.
How are we doing? How you guys feeling?
Doing okay.
Doing okay. Billy-san, how you holding up there, buddy?
Feeling good. Nervous. I start a new job tomorrow, so
you'll be fine.
You will be amazing at it.
I'm not great in new situations and new people. I kind of have to work my way through.
Just think, they're all naked underneath their clothes.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. It's not that enticing in some cases. I mean, seriously, what if the first person he meets is some guy who's like 5'8", 400 pounds with, with suspenders that are holding on suspenders? That's not a visual you want to be working with on that one.
Oh, that's okay. The visuals from our topic for today was not something I want to continue. So,
well, too bad. I got 2 words for you there, Tanya dear.
What?
Legally blonde.
At least it's not super cheesy.
Hey, you know what? And Legally Blonde isn't.
Not compared to
they're cheesy in different ways.
Yes.
We're gonna talk about that more in the long segment. But you know what? You're already prescribing a 2021 sensibility to a 1975 production.
It was horrible.
So
well.
And of course,
I don't want to give my opinions too early, because I have some thoughts on that.
Yeah,
I do too.
Both Randy and Mark are like, "It's awesome! You need to watch more." I'm like, "No." So, but we'll just put that little teaser out for later.
Yeah. So, and Daniel-san, how you holding up there, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm back on the chemo, so my energy levels have been dropping consistently since I started that up, but I didn't have the IV, so I'm not feeling all that other crap. So it's not.
You're
too
not
bad.
As cold this time.
No, I don't have the cold thing. I just have the lack of energy and diarrhea. So
great.
stuff I can do. Yeah,
so you're really tired, and then you have a hard time getting to the bathroom. Yeah, got it.
Well, I got my bag here, so I don't have to run to the bathroom.
Yeah, so he's really not. He doesn't have a lot to worry about when it comes to stuff like that.
It just fills up my bag faster. So nice.
Yeah.
The great thing about living within ostomy.
Joy. Hopefully, as I was talking about before we started. As I was talking about before we started recording, I got my second vaccine yesterday, and And of course, me being me, there was a lot of nervous people in line at the convention center. There was a lot of, like, this one guy in front of me was just looking around, looking around, looking around, looking around, looking up, looking at his watch, and I'm like, I just out of instinct, just like, yeah, right, mate. And he's like, I hate needles, man. I'm really nervous about all this whole thing. I go, first shot, second. He goes, second. I go, well, you've already been through it once. You're fine so far. This is gonna be nothing. You're gonna be fine. He's like, all right, cool. So I just started talking him up, just kind of like calming him down a little bit. And as I walk into the waiting area before you get your vaccine, they've got all the chairs lined up. And it's funny for me because it's in the convention center, right? So we're being, the original vendor floor is kind of like where we were checking in and queuing up. And then panel room 1 from FC3's 1, 2, and 3 was where we were waiting, and then the vaccine areas were set up beyond that, in panel rooms 2 and 3 in the gaming area, stuff like so. People who have been to FC3, that's kind of how they had everything set up. So I walk in, and I'm joking to myself, and I think I made a text message about it the last time. I'm in panel room 1 right now. Judging somebody's cosplay or something. Oh, this lady's cosplay is Nurse Ratchet. She's about to stab me in the arm or something like that. I don't remember exactly how I put it, but I come walking in and the room is full, and there's like 1,000-yard stairs across the room. There's nobody surfing their phone or just shooting the shit with the guy next to him or anything like that. There's just like a bunch of people just like, oh God, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? So I take my seat and I'm sitting there for a moment. I look around. I'm like, so when's the movie start? Do we know what the trailers are going to be this time around? And it's almost like the dam broke, and there was this cascade of chuckles across the room. And a couple of guys look over at me, and I start getting people talking to each other. So I'm doing my usual thing as a bard, right? Kind of breaking the mood, getting people relaxed up a little bit, and of course, I have to, maximize my entertainment value. When I finally get the shot done, I'm vaccinated. Okay, cool. I go check in with the recovery people. Okay, cool. Go sit over there and hang out for 15 minutes. Okay, cool. I walk in. The only seat's right in the middle of the room. And I go walking in the middle, and all these people look up from their phones, and they're looking up, and they look at me. And I go, I bet you're wondering why I called you all here today. And there's, again, chuckling across the room, and just doing my part to try and keep people moving, lighthearted.
It's Chris being Chris.
Exactly. And I was, I remember somebody telling me, I think it was Tanya actually, just make sure you're hydrated before before and after. So I was pushing water and peeing, push pee, and I'm going bonkers on the freaking toilet. I was just like, oh my God, I was peeing every half hour. It felt like,
but it's good for you.
And yeah, and I went through my evening, and I went to bed last night, and I woke up this morning, and it didn't hit me right off the bat. I got up, I started kind of putting around the house, and as I was telling you guys before we started recording, I started folding some laundry on the couch just about an hour and a half ago, and I went to get up, and it was like everything hurt. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, okay. I started laughing because I'm like, oh my God, that's real. Holy crap. And like every spot of me that normally has some sort of arthritis, my left hand, my knees, my left ankle, just it's ramped up to 11. I'm like, oh, ow. It's just like, wow. So I'm trying to stay loose. I had some leftovers for breakfast to kind of do a little bit more than just like toast and peanut butter kind of a thing like I normally do. I did, some pasta and a meatball and stuff like that. Just try to add a little more extra protein in there, something a little more filling. And I'm pounding water, and I'm pounding the Tylenol, and I'm like, oh my word. Now I'm sitting here just kind of going, okay, I'm good. I'm sitting still. Everything's fine. I'm fine. But I can feel myself warming up. Like I can, when you're sick, you can feel that, when your body heat is starting to increase a little bit. Maybe, Dan, not so much after IV, but still, I'm starting to feel that. So it's like, oh, okay. All right. So this is all very real. Got it. Okay, cool. My body's going, all right, time to get to work here. Cool. Okay. So I haven't been laid asunder at this moment in time, but I'm definitely feeling it. It's like, this is a wild kind of ride here at the moment. I don't know, but you guys kind of breezed through it. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have, I just had a sore arm. So that was good.
Yeah. I was fatigued about 15 hours or so after my shot. Because like I bounced up the next morning, went to work. Fortunately, it was a Wednesday remote day. Went to work, and I'm like, yeah, my arm's just sore. I'm like, you wouldn't have thought that nothing happened.
Right.
And
15 hours. Because I got my vaccine, I think around
Around
1:30,
1.
2 o'clock in the
Yeah.
afternoon yesterday. I showed up at 1, but it was a little bit of a wait there. And but let me say, just sidebar, the people at the convention center who were checking everybody in and getting everybody processed and getting the people the that was a well-oiled machine, man. They were just cruising. There was just a lot of people to deal with. That's the only thing that held things up.
Yeah.
But it was really well done over there. But you were saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so they were saying like my coworker, his was about 15 hours.
Mhm.
I had my shot about 2:45 in the afternoon, and mine was more like 21 hours because it was about 12:30 where it hit me, where I
Mhm.
just started to get tired. Like like you first get up and you're finishing like your cold or whatever that you've been sick and you have a lot of energy like that first day you feel great or whatever,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
halfway through the day you're like, oh wait, I did too much type thing.
Right.
So that's where I was at, that I just felt like I had done too much. It didn't even open my Coke Zero for the afternoon. I went and put that back in the fridge.
Oh my. Well,
I
that
know,
was
that's what I'm like.
serious.
That is serious that I didn't open the second one. I came home. I told my boss, I said, I might have said this a little too early about not having any side effects or reactions. I'm like, I'm getting a little fatigued. And I'm like, do you mind if I go? He's like, go ahead. I mean, it was like 1:15, 1:30. I'd already been on
Yeah.
office hours.
But
for
you
the
were fine in no
afternoon.
time after that. You just kind
Yeah,
of
so
slept in a little bit.
I went home, climbed into bed, watched Star Wars Clone Wars because I
Nice.
sent Chris a text going, I can't find it. He goes, look under the one that says season 7. I'm like, that's just season 7. He goes, no, open it. I'm like, oh, there they
There's
are.
the whole thing.
Because I saw the first movie that opened it, like the pilot, but then I'm just like, okay, where's the rest of it? I'm like, because all I was seeing is the season 7. I didn't realize that they were all buried behind there.
Gotcha.
So I watched that from like 3 to 8:30. Tucked myself into bed. Had oatmeal for dinner. I was in bed the entire time. Got up and went to work on Thursday. So, I mean, it was just, yeah. I think I might have been a little warm because I did take some Tylenol when I got home.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do recall being a little on the warm side, but it was actually a nice day when I came home too. It was like in the 60s. So.
Oh, nice.
But
yeah.
So I came home, tucked myself into bed,
I think
relaxed,
I'm just going to approach this as I have to go forward. That's all there is to it. No matter how uncomfortable you are, I just got to keep pushing. So we'll see what happens.
take everything out on your gaming group today.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Okay.
That works. Mm-hmm. I'll just sit there and go roll for initiative and let them try to figure out what the hell happened.
There you go. There you go.
Anyway, so yeah, that's my tale of somewhat woe, I suppose. Have you guys been watching Falcon and Winter Soldier at all?
Yes.
Oh my God.
So
I hear
good.
it's great. I'm doing that thing where I'm waiting, and I don't know why I'm waiting because I still haven't gotten the.
Hello? Billy
Hello?
just muted himself.
I just muted myself.
Okay.
I'm not used to this new tech machine I have. I haven't watched WandaVision yet, and you know me, everything's got to be in order. And now I'm going to have 20 hours of TV to watch instead of the just the one I should be watching.
Yeah. Well, next Friday, the last episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier will drop, so then you can watch all 6. You do not need to watch WandaVision before you watch this one.
I was going to ask that.
No, you do not need to do it.
They are not. They're not
I may watch
handholding.
WandaVision.
What?
I said I may watch WandaVision today just because.
There you go.
Yeah. But yes, Falcon and Winter Soldier. Ooh. You got to watch it so we can start talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
We've made sure that we haven't done any spoilers for you.
Spoilers. Okay.
So.
Yeah, we're going to not a book club both of those series when we have an opportunity to make sure that all 4 of us are caught up on that, because I think that's definitely worth talking about. It's interesting to me, and this is the one thing I'll say, and then we'll move on. It's interesting to me to see how people have been reacting to both of those shows. I mean, insofar as that the greater majority of the opinion has been extremely positive. Both are well-written shows. People were a bit soft on WandaVision at first because they didn't quite understand what was being done. And then as it progresses, it starts to become a clearer picture where you realize this is not just episode to episode to episode. There's an arc here. There's a progression. And once it starts dawning on you, it makes everything more meaningful. So that's cool. With Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's more of, the action movie spread across 6 episodes of TV, so you have a little bit more depth than you would have on a big screen event where you're, if Falcon and Winter Soldier was an MCU movie, like Ant-Man and Wasp or something like that, it would be a 2-hour thing. You'd probably still enjoy it, but the ride or with the progressive nature of the character arcs would probably not be as meaningful. Just so you're getting an opportunity to see an MCU movie really kind of, I don't want to use the term stretched out, because that kind of gives you a connotation that they're like trying to push for things, but it's more fulfilled. I think that's probably a better way of saying it. And that's just my opinion. But it's also interesting to see some people kind of like slam it because they're like, well, they shouldn't be attacking some of these particular, social, commentary pieces or something like that. It's too much. Shut up. There's this one guy I watch his YouTube channel every so often. He was like, well, it's suffering from woke disease. And I'm like, oh, shut the hell up. Turn it off. Moving on.
Why are the people that complain about cancel culture always the ones that really are the ones trying to cancel something?
Oh, we don't have time for that conversation.
That'll
today.
be a whole nother podcast.
That's a podcast waiting to happen right there. I'll tell you what, Billy, I think I'm going to have you and Tanya on Dan and Chris Save the World, because that's a topic that is exactly geared for that particular podcast.
Because
we are going to go.
No one's canceling Mr. Potato Head. No one's canceling Dr. Seuss. No. one's God, I hate that.
Yeah, that drives me a little on the bunker side too.
Okay, so we will schedule that for Dan and Chris Save the World.
Yeah, you come join us some night, and when we do that, and we're going to have that conversation, because that is a tremendously non-geeky, severely political conversation. Because there's some people out there who have to have their heads clapped together. That's all there is to it.
Or examined.
Examined and then clapped together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to, at this point, start a topic after the break. And we're going to hear Tanya call something cheesy at least. Dan, what are you thinking? Maybe 12, 13 times?
Probably at least.
Give or take. So we're going to have a running office
starting
12,
then,
13 at this point.
Or are we including the ones I already said?
Starting then.
Okay.
All right? Okay.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, so she's going to try and find other ways to say it now. We're just going to ding her for it anyway. Because nothing bothers an English major like another English major monitoring her, saying,
no.
"Well, you just said that,"
or something that is completely spelled wrong and grammatically incorrect, and that doesn't even. Never mind. We're not going.
Yeah, I've been teaching math. You're an English major. I'm a math teacher. You're an English major.
Yeah, that happened the other day.
This was an argument that Tanya and I had the other night.
And in my defense, I'd been drinking, so. I did another math thing earlier that night that was actually correct, but 2003, 2013, they both ended 3. Leave me alone.
Yes, dear. All right. So anyway, I'm going to say let's take a quick break, and when we come back, today's long segment, we are going to go back to our old-fashioned Not a Book Club, and we're going to talk about the 1975 series Space 1999. Space 1999 is a science fiction television program that ran for 2 series from 1975 to 1977. In the opening episode, set in the year 1999, nuclear waste stored on the moon's far side explodes, knocking the moon out of orbit and sending it, as well as its 311 inhabitants of Moonbase Alpha, hurtling uncontrollably into space. Space 1999 was the last production by the partnership of Jerry and Sylvia Anderson and was the most expensive series produced for British television up to that time. The first series was co-produced by ITC Entertainment and Italian broadcaster RAI, while the second series was produced solely by ITC. In the opinion of this particular podcaster, Space 1999 was essentially the British answer to Star Trek, which had closed up shop many years earlier and was just starting to find success in syndication at this point. Instead of creating a cool spaceship, because British science fiction was always well known for having such a great budget for special effects, I say that as sarcastically as possible, being a Doctor Who fan, they decided, well, how do we do this as cool as possible? Well, let's just go ahead and blow up the whole damn moon and send it out into space. That'll be fun. So
that's crazy.
There you have it. I think it was
the moon into space was crazy.
Yeah. It was such an interesting thing. Now, I think because after Tanya and I watched the first episode or most of it until she started complaining so loudly that I gave up. But I did go back and watch a couple more episodes throughout the season 1 and a couple of season 2 episodes over the past couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing for me, and it's almost like a Mandela effect. I don't remember a lot of the episodes that actually aired when I was a kid. I don't remember them because I was watching them again going, what's this all about? I'm watching them yesterday I'm watching this episode going, I don't remember this episode at all. So it's almost, for me, it's like I remember the first impression that I had as a kid on the visuals of it, in 75, 76, 77. Come on, Star Wars had not hit yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was pretty cutting edge FX for a show of that type in that era. But I think I think a lot of my assessment that the show was blisteringly cool was from a 5-year-old's perspective, and I never actually went back and experienced it again to kind of reformat my thinking. I don't know if anybody else is kind of sharing that opinion or not, but
yeah, I remember playing with it. I remember having a friend of mine had the ships, the Eagle ships, whatever.
The Eagle.
And he had a couple of those. I remember going to his house. We played with those for hours and hours. My favorite toy to play with. I loved the ship at the time, but I don't. I had one too. I didn't remember this. I didn't remember the series that much. I didn't remember I didn't remember much of anything about it except for the ship.
I was telling Tanya, I remember for Christmas one year, my parents gave me the full Eagle play set, and this thing was as big as a coffee table.
It was huge. It was
right?
Great.
It was huge, and excuse me there. But yeah, and I remember having a lot of fun with that, and just having my own adventures. I don't think the TV series was probably playing in the background. I remember the music and the visual aspect of it, the uniforms, and of course, growing up in the 70s, the fact that the uniforms had bell-bottom pants did not occur to me at all when I was 5. That didn't bother me in the slightest. It was modern fashion. I look at it now, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that was a little weird. All right, okay, it didn't age.
Yeah,
and just to reinforce what you guys are saying, I'm a little bit older than you guys, and a lot older than Tanya, and I remember it being sort of shown back to back with Star Trek reruns on Saturday nights. And I watched Space 1999 occasionally, always Star Trek. And I didn't remember the Space 1999 episodes. And I actually like them better now than I did then. But I got a big kick out of the show watching it. Like I said, I liked it better now than I did then. And I know Tanya's going to say it's cheesy, but it brought me back to a time where I'd sit in front of the TV on a Saturday night from 6 to 8 o'clock and watch things happen in space and in the future, doing things that you couldn't imagine happening.
Yeah. I try to remember the context of when it was made when I watch these kind of shows, because they're not going to stand up to the time if you think about it compared to today's, technology and everything like that. But if you try to put yourself back in that time, it's like, okay, it was good for that time and everything. Yeah.
I remember watching it occasionally when I was 10, 11 years old and thinking it was like the craziest looking show I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
You know, I got a big kick out of watching it again. Although can I mention one problem I had, and this is in my own brain, and I've mentioned my sort of needing to watch things in order and as a completist. I didn't realize until I Wikipedia'd this, because after watching an episode of TV now, I like to go online and sort of research it and see what people think of it, and that they completely fireflied this show.
Yes,
In
they
America,
did.
they showed it completely out of order. And once I found that out, it pissed me off, to be honest with you. And that I watched
like Roy
3 episodes.
Dutrice's character, for instance.
I should have watched them in a different order, and that frustrated me.
Yeah,
British
like
shows
Roy Dutrice's character. Okay,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, I was going to say, like, we got to be in the same room soon. I was just going to speak to Billy's point about them showing the episodes out of order, because like Roy Dutrice, the actor who voiced most of the audiobooks for Game of Thrones before he passed away, he played a commissioner, right? And I believe the commissioner's character, here's a spoiler, gets killed off in one of the episodes. But he shows up in the first episode, then disappears, then he pops up in another episode and dies, and then he pops up in a third episode. It's like, wait, what? It's like, wait a second here. So yeah, Billy, you're right. They fireflied that damn thing. It was weird. So, but you were saying, Dan, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, the British shows didn't always get love on American television.
To the point where British shows a lot of time, like Monty Python, wound up on PBS. You know, but was this show a network show, or was it syndicated in America?
I think it was a syndicated show.
Okay,
I don't remember,
because like here in Rochester,
if it was ITC, I could almost guarantee.
Yeah. It was on Channel 10 here in Rochester.
My signal's breaking up here.
Oops.
That's okay. No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying it was on Channel 10 here in Rochester because it was on as a double thing with Star Trek. But I didn't know if back then Channel 10 was a CBS affiliate, if CBS affiliates carried it as a network show, or if it was syndicated to whoever wanted to show it.
See, I'm glad you said that, Billy, because in my head, I automatically ascribe ITC productions to PBS, because ITC was always, for me, it was British television, European television, and that automatically, to me, because of the way I was raised, always meant because I could have sworn I saw that on Channel 21 rather than Channel 10. But you're telling me otherwise, and I have no way to argue that point. But I had locked in because of my own kind of, I guess, stereotyping of how they fit.
And because you're probably not aware of this, and I know because I'm like a pop culture trivia nerd, it had a following in America. Martin Landau and Barbara Bain were the stars of Mission Impossible. So them reuniting for Space 1999 was a thing. You know, it was a reason.
And they were
Americans
married for a long time, weren't they? Those two?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember chatting with Tanya about that when we were watching it. What was about the show that we thought was it the visuals only? Was there anything about this? Because I'm going to let Tanya have at it in short order, right? Because I know that there are things that we want to talk about from the 2021 perspective. Right, but what was it about the show that attracted our attention so much? What was it that made it the phenom that we still talk about today?
Excuse me.
Are we having that hard of a time coming up with something?
Apparently, the silence speaks 1,000 words here. But
gee, maybe you guys are more into my camp now.
No, I had a cough, so I muted myself. I think it was I think it was definitely the visuals because, like I said,
Yeah.
I watched it with Star Trek, and Star Trek plots I
Right.
remember. Space 1999, not so much. And you said the same thing, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't
Yeah.
remember episodes.
Yeah.
I remembered Star Trek episodes, but not Space 1999 episodes. But I do remember what that show looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was the
So
attraction.
Star
The
Trek is in our
characters.
consciousness because of the stories it told and the characters, where Space 1999 is the visuals and there's a certain imagination level obviously for both shows, but there was a certain I think Space 1999 had almost kind of a more realistic feel to it. I mean, the Eagle looked like it could have evolved from the Apollo program,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the Enterprise does not. The Enterprise is definitely something that came from an imagination far ahead of its time, right? So but the Eagle was tangible. It was something you could look at. You could see, you could see Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo in it. With the directional thrusters and the engine bells and things like that. There were and the way that the nose cone, the cockpit section was shaped. There were things you could just kind of see a lineage, and then I felt that gave it more of an attachment to folks who were into that sort of thing. On a different front, and I remember mentioning this to Tanya the other night. Star Trek espoused diversity, but it was all American actors playing different ethnicities and different cultures and trying to do their best. Like, Scotty James Doohan was a Canadian trying to be a Scotsman. George Takei is definitely a Japanese man, so obviously that fit really well. But I can see his face. Chekhov. Holy cow. Walter Koenig. Yeah, Walter Koenig, playing a Russian. So there was a lot of, bringing that diversity through representation by portraying it. Whereas Space 1999, when you looked at main mission control there, you're seeing people from all around the world. The actors and actresses were definitely the culture that the character hails from. They wrote the character around the actor's ethnicity, which I thought was really kind of cool. So Star Trek kind of set the tone for diversity, and set how you can see the world more universally. And then Space 1999, in my opinion, really did a great job of making it normal, making it more prevalent, and putting it right out in the open and saying, here we are. Here's everybody in the world represented together. Which I thought was a kind of a cool thing. I remember noticing that. So
see, and until I was rewatching it, I watched I watched 3 episodes. I didn't realize it was a British show until the rewatching, because when I was 10, 11 years old, it was just a show that was on Saturday nights, and I didn't pay attention to sort of the Martin Mull and Barbara Bain are American, and they were the
You're
stars.
Stuck on Martin Mull. Martin Landau.
Jeez.
Martin
Lawrence. I want to put Martin Lawrence in there.
Now there would be a Space 1999 remake I'd like to see as Martin Lawrence as Commander Koenig. That would be amazing. that would be funny. Okay. Where was I? I know I was thinking of something. I hate it when that happens. I do this every week now. Every week now there's a point and it just slips away because I'm old. Never mind. I'll move on to something else. Go ahead, Tanya. Tell us what you thought. First, no, wait a minute. Tell me something good. Tell me anything that you may have saw something that you saw potential in. Tell me something good. Tell me that you liked it.
I can't do that.
Nothing at all, Tanya? Nothing at all?
Why?
What was so bad?
I
have a question, Tanya. Do you find it harder to watch than the original Star Trek?
I would think that the original Star Trek would probably be just as cheesy, that I probably couldn't go back and watch it. I don't know. I'm like just watching the opening and the flying over the moon. I'm like, oh my god, this is horrible. And Chris is like, no, give it a couple minutes. Give it a couple minutes. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a couple minutes. And I'm like, it's
No,
still
you see, that's the thing is, I was begging her to give it a couple of minutes, but no, she'd already made up her mind. That was I was dealing
like,
with.
I tried. I'm like,
no, you didn't.
like,
you did.
I was watching. I was like, okay, like looking at. I'm like,
I remember the point that I was going to make earlier, though. I mean,
okay.
Here's the thing. Let me give Tanya a moment to kind of crystallize her thoughts here. I think one of the things that drove me kind of to giggling in my recent rewatch the past couple of days, there's an episode where the great English actor Brian Blessed is in it, right? And there's this whole thing about immortality and whatnot. But I'm watching these British actors, and it's very plain to me that the difference between American TV and British TV is American actors, they train to be on the screen, either small or large. A lot of actors these days, they train for the camera being in their face. British actors train from the stage. In my opinion, they are more bred for the stage than they are the screen. And a lot of them make the transition to the screen, right? So American actors will go from screen to stage. British tend to go from stage to screen. And because of that, I see these characters, especially in the 60s and 70s, Doctor Who is notorious for this outlook on life, where they are playing to people in the back row when everybody's in the front. They are over the top. It is just, oh, I'm now looking for the humans. It's like, okay, dude, you gotta take a Ritalin. It's and Brian Blessed is just this icon. He's a legend. He's an amazing human being, and this personality that when he walks onto a stage, he will own the entire theater within 2 words of his first line. He's just that dynamic of a personality. But when you box him in on a TV show, on a small screen with the camera right there, it's overwhelming. It really is overwhelming. Now, I don't know do any of you share that? Disagree? Agree? Am I in a ballpark or not? Or
I do agree with you. I was just thinking of something.
Okay.
And in terms of Tanya not liking this show, and I know my wife Susan, if she had watched it, she wouldn't like it because I sort of know her tastes, and
Right.
and not liking things that are older. Do you think that's a male female thing? If Chris, if you put Ian and Jules in the same room and had them watch this, would Jules dislike it and Ian like it? Do you think?
I think they would.
Because
Honestly, I think they would both hate it. I think
okay,
they would both hate it, knowing my kids, because I remember, watching the original Star Wars trilogy with my son was easy when he was 5, 6, 7. Right? He loved it just for the same reasons I did: the dynamics, the visuals, the spaceships flying around, the gunfights, etc., the sword fights. That was cool, but you're really not paying attention to the details of what's going on. You and I and Dan and Tanya, we've all grown up to appreciate the story of the Star Wars movies, and just kind of enjoying, what the universe was built to be like for that particular story. And I remember sitting there, I think it was just a couple of years ago, we were hanging out, Ian and Jules were both over, and he wanted, hey, let's watch a movie. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to bring on the original Star Wars. And he was like, okay, cool. Star Wars. All right, cool. By a few minutes into Tatooine, he was already in his room playing video games on his computer. He got up, just walked out. He's like, all right, I'll catch up with you. I'm like, oh, okay. And up the stairs he went, and that was that. He was done. It's about, and Mike DiGiorgio said this great when he and I were on Evan Dawson's show Connections talking about Star Wars with Jack Garner, which, by the way, was surreal for me. Okay, it was in the early days of FC3, and Mike brought me on board to be with Evan, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. He goes, yeah, you're going to be a geek expert, so go ahead. I'm like, all right. And we were talking about it, and Mike is like, we're so mad at Star Wars because it didn't age with us. It stayed in a certain kind of demographic. And I'm wondering if Space 1999 is kind of the same effect in its own way, where we remember it fondly because we were into that sort of thing back in the day, back in the 70s, and it was so uncommon to have something we could really like, because sci-fi and fantasy was treated like stepchildren, to quote unquote regular TV, to mainstream cinema, to mainstream entertainment. This was all just throwaway stuff to fill in the masses, to please the kids, right? And so we look at it with wonder, because this is what we really liked to see, and so we romanticize it, and we remember playing with the toys, and we remember the visuals, and we remember the music, and I tell you what, the theme to Space 1999 has earwormed in my head the past 48 hours, and I'm doing everything I can to get it out, but I can't. It's been unsuccessful so far, and it's pure disco space opera. The theme alone. Um, and now here we are looking at it from 2021, where we've had the sequel and the prequel trilogies. We've had Star Trek movies. We've had streaming services. We have the MCU and the DCEU and Michael Bay movies and more CGI than we know what to do with. And we look at the Eagle being careening over the lunar landscape on wires. And you can see the wires once in a while, and you're like, okay, what happened?
Maybe that's part of it, and that the old style effects just felt good. It didn't seem to.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't. I don't know. Overwhelm me.
Right.
I guess the simpleness just sort of it just felt good, to put it simply.
Right. I think that's a thing that needs to be, we kind of need to lean on, and there was a simplicity to it, but it was advanced for when we first saw it. It was when it made its first impression on us. It was advanced enough to make a positive first impression. Whereas with Tanya, unfortunately, she did not grow up with this stuff. She didn't think about this stuff. This was not important to her. She grew up on Star Wars. She grew up on the Star Trek movies. Fantasy movies, Labyrinth, Princess Bride, stuff like that. So when you look at something from '75 from 2021 viewpoint, yeah, cheesy as all hell.
Well, and also I'm thinking, I'm like, when this came out, I was 3. So ages 3 to 5. That wouldn't necessarily have been in my wheelhouse at that point between 1975 and 1977.
Absolutely.
So I think that's one thing right there. And I'm like, I've hopped into like shows from the 70s, and I'm going down the list of shows of the ones that I watched, whether it was late 70s, early 80s, and the ones that I would watch. All in the Family was one of them. Bewitched, the Bob Newhart show, I think. I would not watch Bonanza, but I know people love it. That's just not me. Brady Bunch. I don't believe I watched Charlie's Angels when it was out, but I watched the movies. Chips was a favorite of mine.
Okay.
Dallas, Different Strokes, Dukes of Hazzard, Facts of Life, because these are all alphabetical. I did not watch Dragnet. I did not watch Get Smart. I did not watch Gomer Pyle, USMC. I don't know about Good Times. I did not watch Green Acres. No Gunsmoke, but I did watch Happy Days. I loved it. No Hawaii Five-0. I loved Hogan's Heroes. But it was 1965, 1971, but I watched it probably later when it was in syndication.
Yeah, those were reruns like crazy.
Reruns. I Dream of Jeannie would have been reruns. The Jeffersons. Not Knots Landing.
I can hear the theme songs from almost all these shows that you're talking about.
Laverne and Shirley was a favorite also. Love Boat. I was not a MASH person. I loved Mission Impossible, but I don't think it was the original one. I think it was, because this was in 66 to 73. It might have been that one that they reshowed. Mork and Mindy, Muppet Show. Three's Company. That's pretty much it on there, and you can actually see that and then only child, girl, different shows would be playing. It was in my house, like I could watch the Muppet Show on Sesame Street, and I remember the Donnie and Marie show, watching that when I was younger because I had the play set. So I think it's so now going back in, and I'm like, yeah, I've heard of it, whatever. It's come through, but it wasn't something that had like passed my wheelhouse. So I think trying to get into it now when it wasn't something that I had any idea about then, I think that's originally, like, I put it right up there with watching like Red Dwarf and like the classic Doctor Who. I just couldn't get into it. I just didn't get it. I just didn't understand it. And watching Space 1999, when Martin Landau's character is like walking towards the pillar to talk to the commissioner or whatever, I'm just like, I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, so where's the camera so the commissioner can see him, because he's like coming right. I'm looking at it too, like, critically type thing, going, okay, it kind of reminded me of someone's living room set and not necessarily like a spaceship. So I don't know. It was just, I just couldn't get past it for me. That's me. But you guys can love it all you want. There's enough love from the rest of the panel that I don't need to love it.
I love how they had the clickers to open the doors. Their little thing they carried around, and they point at the door to open the doors. I thought.
Well, I thought it was interesting because then that was like their communicator plus their access tool. So, like a commander could get anywhere in the base, but like a regular good old fashioned crewman might not be able to get to sensitive locations because their clicker wouldn't get that door to open. I thought it was an interesting kind of a thing.
It was. It's a little awkward. I
remember Well, yeah. I remember, their version of the phaser was kind of interesting. I remember copying it with Legos, just making one out of Legos and kind of going, okay, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, for the time frame that it is, it had such like advanced ideas, such as being able to pilot the Eagle remotely.
Yeah.
And being able to see that type. I'm like, okay, I'll give him that. But then trying to lift the radioactive things out with a huge magnet, I'm like, that just like suspended disbelief for me. I'm just like, nah, I can't do it.
Really? That did it?
That was one of the things that did it.
I wonder if this show came out a few years after man landed on the moon. In 1975, I wonder if the producers, writers thought that was going to be a real version of 1999, if we were going to be that far advanced.
Probably. Yeah. They probably thought that we were heading in that direction. They didn't think we'd stop.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the thing, is I don't think anybody really truly understood that we were just going to stop. That's...
On Apple TV, they have a series called For All Mankind. I don't know if any of you have seen it.
I've seen the first season. Yeah.
I'm liking it. It's it's an alternate reality where the Russians got to the moon first, and it started up a moon race. So we're living on the moon more. It continued on. Going to the moon continued, and I had to compare the size of the base they had in that which is in second season it grew, but it's still very small and tight compared to the roomy, spacious moon base they had in Space 1999, which is these are very huge and generous areas in a moon base there. Which I was kind of watching. I kind of got that for Discovery too. Watching Discovery, how big and roomy the ship was at the Discovery. Is how these rooms are. They're huge. These rooms are on the Discovery bigger than my house. It seems, and it was just I'm like, why would it just seems so inefficient to build a spaceship like just the huge monster waste of space. When you get, it's like, and so I kind of think about that when I saw the moon base in Space 1999 and how much space there actually was in it, and these rooms were huge, and but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Well, that's always going to be a thing. Is you're going to the future is always going to. What was the point I wanted to make? Something, the roominess of it. I think that's the thing, is because we always talk about how the very first American spaceships, the Mercury capsules,
tiny.
a Mercury capsule could fit in my home office,
Mm-hmm.
right? This 10 by 11 by 8 room you could stuff a Mercury capsule in here.
Yeah.
And you imagine going up into space, basically wearing a manned maneuvering unit.
It's crazy.
And then coming back down just in that same
Mhm.
thing. It's like being launched in a footlocker, right? Yeah. And so it revolves. Gemini, Apollo. The space shuttle was well known for being fairly roomy compared to Apollo, obviously, especially when you put the space lab in the cargo bay.
Right.
And that's the thing they talk about with like Dragon capsule and Starliner and things like that is the roominess, the space, and so space is the final frontier in terms of how big is the actual spaceship. That's a thing.
Yeah.
So, and Star Trek or Star Wars really kind of amplified that to a whole order of magnitude of how epic and massive their ships are.
But think about it. We have an aircraft carrier that has 5,000 people on it, and it's smaller than these ships are. These spaceships are.
Yes. Yeah.
You think about that. I mean, just think about the comparison of what our military does for these are giant bases on sea, and they hold thousands of people, and they're smaller than these spaceships, which hold a fraction of the amount of people. And it's harder to build something up in space than it is in the water there. So it's.
Oh man, no, I'm looking at a different space show because like when people say space, I'm like either you go to the Final Frontier, these are the voyages, or like you guys jump to space 1999. When I hear space, I'm like Above and Beyond, because there was that TV show that only lasted one season, or it says 2 seasons, but it truly was only like one ran for one from 95 to 96 due to low ratings, and that was one I loved, but it got canceled because it was on Fox. But I don't know. It's not like I don't like sci-fi, because everyone knows that I do like sci-fi. It's just I can't do sci-fi from early.
That early?
Yeah.
Not the
apparently 19. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Chris. No, go ahead, Chris. You got a thought.
No, you're fine. I was going to say apparently 1977 is as early as
Tanya can get it. Yeah.
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 Well, that sort of feeds into my question, in that 1977 was Star Wars, and after that came sort of a wave of science fiction movies and TV shows, but Battlestar Galactica, the original one with Lauren Green.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the other night I was watching a rerun of Buck Rogers with Gil Gerard.
Yeah, that was great. I loved that show.
Wow, okay.
I did too, and the actor that played Tweaky just passed away, I think yesterday or 2 days ago.
But Felix Silva.
But I was curious if Tanya's ever seen Buck Rogers. Does that still look too old, even though it was post Star Wars?
If I have seen Buck Rogers, I've probably only seen an episode or 2, so it's not one that, because that would be another one that probably Chris and Mark and Randy would love,
because it's based on a character from like.
Actually, I hated Buck Rogers.
Did you?
Did you really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I hated it.
Really? Why is that? I love the show.
Well, the thing about Buck Rogers for me is that by the time I started really watching it, I had seen Star Wars, I had seen Space 99, Star Trek, I had seen Battlestar Galactica, and everything that had come just before it or just around it, and I because I was raised on PBS, I was raised on Doctor Who and All Creatures Great and Small and Masterpiece Theater and all that stuff. I was already aware of the dichotomy between, European television and American episodic churn out the product television. Even at 10 years old, I was making commentary about it to people. And so Buck Rogers just seemed to be the next here's an American take on, you could put anybody in this part, you can paint the uniform any way. Okay, this is what's going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. The entire episode will unfold itself. And I just wanted Buck Rogers to actually be reskinned to what it was supposed to be, Battlestar Galactica Season 2. That was the way I looked at it. I'm like, I wanted more Battlestar Galactica because, like Dan, I liked the show. I mean, I have not stuck with it as he has, but for me, when they canned it and they started bringing in Buck Rogers and they started bringing in all these other things that were like short-lived, one season or half season wonders, it was like, okay, can we just have stuck with the thing that we already started and liked, and so I never liked, not to shade Gil Gerard, because I thought he was cool, and Aaron Gray, I thought she was great, but the story itself, I'm like, I can live happily without this right now, be fine. So there's my 2 cents on that.
Okay.
Could Space 1999 be remade and updated?
There was talk of that.
Space 2099?
Yeah.
2099?
There was actually talk of Space 2099. Where the heck did I see it? Not that one.
I don't know.
Hold on.
That's so cool, though. I didn't know that.
Oh,
it
right
wouldn't
there.
be the same, though. Yeah.
Let's see.
Actually, I think the show Dan brought up, For All Mankind, is the direction Space 1999, a current version, may go in. Sort of an alternate reality type of thing.
Is For All Mankind, and pardon my ignorance on it, because I know the show exists, but I don't know much about it. Is it a documentary or a drama?
It's a drama. It's on Apple TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just what would have happened if the Russians got there first. It actually became more of a competition. So we had to one up each other type of thing. So they got there, so we had to get there.
Then they had a woman astronaut, so we needed women in our space program.
Mm-hmm.
Well, new Space 1999 was coming February 2021 from Big Finish. The full cast audio retelling was back for 3 episodes through Big Finish.
Oh, it's an audiobook.
That's an audiobook.
Yeah.
Let's see what else I found. But they were talking about the Space 19 will relaunch with a pilot episode breakaway. It's being rebooted with a new cast. That's talking about the Big Finish stuff. Still.
Audio adventures. Yeah.
Yeah, but I did see something about Space 2099.
Something to think about, I suppose. We'll look into that.
Canceled. Space 2099.
Whoops.
Giant freaking robot was through that. Oh, that was from 7 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's probably dead in the water.
Yeah. 2015. Oh, that's only 6 years ago. Only.
That's a long time in the movie world there, yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Ooh, but on IMDb, the visual of what they had for Space 2099 looks really cool.
Yeah. I mean, they're talking about another reboot of Battlestar Galactica right now, so who knows what's going to happen.
Actually, I think that's starting to fall through, because the person who was slated to be, I just heard this the other day. I wanted to do some more reading on it for Nerd World News. But I believe the person who was slated to be the showrunner of the Battlestar reboot jumped ship. And so that kind of made the whole House of Cards start to...
There's been a bunch of them that's jumped ship.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I know. So I'm wondering if that one might not be...
No, we're not holding our breath for that one. No.
Yeah,
right.
The last thing on Google was from January of 2021.
Okay.
Is regards to Battlestar Galactica.
I mean, there's been talking about Buck Rogers reboot. Last
really?
With George Clooney attached to it.
Really?
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm looking that one up too. February 4th, 2021.
Yeah, so that's fairly recent that he's been attached to it.
Space doc. Oh, there it is.
They wanted to do movies and TV for it. But, it's
that
just
would be interesting.
But will it happen?
Yeah, who knows?
The Buck Rogers estate, overseen by the Nolan Family Trust, is looking to put an end to this reboot and has sent a cease and desist letter via mail and email to Michael Ross, Legendary Entertainment EVP of Business Affairs. Says the estate contends that the Buck Rogers interests have already penned an agreement with David Ellison's Skydance Productions to exploit the property. It says a cease and desist letter does not mean much unless you're willing to back it up with an actual lawsuit.
Yeah, we're familiar with how that works.
Are we?
So it's all in the so it's all, who knows? None of these were going to happen until they actually happen. So I'm not holding my breath for any of these.
Right.
It'd be cool, but
well, you know what, listeners? It's time for you to tell us what you think about the show. If you've listened to it, if you've watched it, if you have any interest in it whatsoever, you got to let us know what you're thinking about it. And, some of the other things we talked about, Buck Rogers and Battlestar Galactica and all sorts of stuff going on out there. So give us your 2 cents, and we'll be happy to cash it in and give you your change back. So we'll see what happens next. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have guess what? Guess what's coming? It shouldn't be a surprise. It's a thing. It's your question of the week. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, and every other folk in between. Hope you guys are having a great time so far. We, as always, are laughing our butts off. Tanya's picking on us. We're picking on Tanya and all sorts of things as per usual. And we're getting a big giggle because there's a high level potential now that all 4 of us are vaccinated that we are going to be able to start seeing each other in person again soon. So that's kind of cool. That'll be a lot of fun.
I want to throw it out to the dear listeners to give us a suggestion of something that we can not a book club that I wouldn't necessarily per se say it's cheesy within the first 30 seconds. So give me a chance. So knowing what I like and what I don't like, which most of the FC3 folks should know by now, give us something that we could watch, whether it's sci-fi, whatever. But please no westerns. That's one thing. Just please no.
Damn it! I was going to say Silverado too.
I think I might have seen that one.
That's a good movie. That is a good movie.
I didn't say it wasn't.
Somewhere there's a documentary about westerns.
No.
That's it. That's what we need to find.
I mean, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I've watched Tombstone. I've watched whatever, and I'm like, those are different. I've watched Wild Wild West because it's got a comedy aspect to it. But give us something to dive deep in because you want to hear our take on it. I mean, we can come up with our own list. I mean, on Thursday we're like, oh, let's do Space 1999, and I'm like, okay, I'll give it a
Now
try.
I'm curious what Tanya thinks of the original version of Wild Wild West with Robert Conrad and Ross Martin.
Oh, see, that would be cool. That'd be fun.
Oh, okay.
He was an old West James Bond. Wasn't the same?
No. Just that little. Oh, you're just like, oh God, no.
Her weekly
that's
vacuuming
awesome.
during.
Oh, so I want to just before we jump into question of the week, I want to point out the little piece of trivia that I threw to the board, the message board yesterday. That I learned this one. This was somebody who sent this to me, so I had to pass it on because it was so cool. So Indiana Jones, born in 1899, and if they age it up correctly, since Harrison Ford is 78 years old, that would place the Indiana Jones 5 movie somewhere in the mid 70s. So how likely is it, do you think, that Indiana Jones will see Star Wars?
It would be funny if they
mull that one over.
If they did that. That would be kind
hysterical.
of a fun little thing they could throw in the movie.
And
That is randomly popped into my head.
knowing
I
Harrison
think you
Ford,
posted it.
He'd be all in for it.
knowing Harrison Ford, right? He'd see Indiana Jones come out of the movie theater. What the hell was that shit? You know, and keep going. I when I heard that, I laughed. I'm like, oh my god, that makes sense. That's funny. So, all right, my friends, it's time for that thing that we do. It's time to do the thing that we do when we do the thing that we do. Yes, that's the one I want to say. Okay, cool. So, Tanya.
Yes, darling.
Pick a number.
202.
202. Oh, we've done that one.
121.
121. What character in a movie could have been great, but the actor they cast didn't fit the role?
Oh God, that's a podcast.
Wow.
Oh, it is a podcast.
That's a podcast waiting to happen. We'll dust over it for this particular thing, but I definitely think that's going to be a podcast waiting to happen.
Oh,
jeez.
Can we table that one? To
You
really give us a chance to
save it for a podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's save that one for a podcast because that's definitely a topic.
We might not have our next week's episode. Let's write that one down. Yeah. What? Send that one out to our little board,
to the message board
chat, so we can think about that one.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll do a different number.
Third time's the charm.
92.
92. What problems will technology solve in the next 5 years, and what problems will it create? Another.
The problems that technology will solve is that Chris will no longer have any technology problems for podcasting.
Oh, I'll find problems.
Yeah, and what it will create is the problems that Chris will find.
Yes. Chris buys brand new computer. Brand new computer fails.
Story.
That's always going to be that's going to be the story of my life. There,
takes over Chris's house and turns off all the lights for him on Alexa.
I think that might be the thing, though. Is I think technology will seek to make things better because that's the thing. That's the thing we always see in sci-fi movies and fantasy movies and regular dramas and whatnot. Is technology is always portrayed as the thing that is created to make people's lives easier, make lives better. But along the way, here are the complications that it causes. Mm-hmm. If we rely so much on texting and our thumbs, tapping away at our screens anymore, people are forgetting how to write. The pen is becoming almost obsolete in some cases. Mm-hmm. We forget how to do certain things because technology is supplanting the need to do the thing. So
how do you turn on a light without saying something?
Now that
I use a light switch.
Right. Now that I'm on this thread, thinking about it, there was a scene in Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, where O'Brien takes the time to cook something for Keiko. And she's marveling at it, like, what is this? And she's kind of dumbstruck because she's never really had anything, it's Irish, and because it's it's ethnic authentic for O'Brien's character, and she's Japanese, so she's not completely 100% familiar with a lot of this stuff. And so he starts telling a story about how his mother would cook, at a stove, and her expression was just astounded. Like, really? She actually she made food with her bare hand. And so that was a very telling thing because for us, for humanity, dinner and lunch is kind of one of those social things. It's an event, the making of food, talking about, sharing your day over the making of food and then sharing that with people. It's all part and parcel with humanity, the breaking of bread right down to it. It's just an age old thing. Is that being taken away from us as technology becomes more and more advanced? To a certain degree, these are questions you have to ask. So there I am on that. I babbled. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's good. I mean, look at what the microwave did. I mean, you used to always have to cook it from scratch, kind of thing. The microwave kind of short circuited a lot of that to make it quicker. So what are we going to have the next 5 years that might do something like that? With all these smart devices we have, I mean, are things going to get too smart? It's not just your computer going to die, but your whole house going to go into lockdown mode.
Yeah.
I can't get
Oh
in
my
my
God,
house.
that would happen to me. I can't get out of my house. Dan, what's wrong? The bathroom door's locked and it won't let me in.
It's on strike till you clean it.
But I can't clean it. It won't let me in.
Or the irony.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. Because that's the kind of thing that would happen to me. I would get stuck in one of those recursive loops where it'd be like, I need to do a thing, but I can't do the thing because something stopped me from doing the thing. And it doesn't want me to do the thing until I've done the thing. It's like, wait, what?
I think one of the bad things is too many passwords now.
Yeah, it is
You have
hard.
too many passwords.
Every site has their own password. They're all different password policies. You can't reuse the same one, and this and that. And if
you really shouldn't reuse the same password for a lot of different sites, because if they hack into one, they'll get in a bunch of them.
I've gotten messages that says, your password's been this old password been compromised, and tells you what the password was, and if you might still have things that are using this password type of thing. I'm like, oh yeah.
I mean, just within the last month, both my Spotify and my eBay account have been hacked, but they knew it. Spotify automatically shut it down, and eBay, and emailed me to reset my password. And
they're getting better at that kind of stuff, but it's still there. Like you said, there's so many different passwords and everything to remember all over the place. I mean, I have what they don't recommend is having a huge spreadsheet of them, which is what I have.
Yeah,
but there's no other way to keep track of them all. I mean, there's probably some old ones in there, but I mean, it's a pretty decent size spreadsheet of stuff here. Let me show you what my spreadsheet looks like.
Yeah.
Wait a second. I have my spreadsheet it's 563 lines right now for different passwords.
Wow.
I mean, a lot of these are probably old and out of date, but still, I mean, these are all things that I've had at one time or the other, or a lot of them are still good. My JC Penney.
There's a transition.
And that.
There's a societal transition, by the way. 50, 60 years ago, hey, my car's got the V8 and I've got this and I've fixed this and it's all chromed out and this, that. Now we're talking about, well, my computer's an i5 core, but I've got about 32 meg of RAM or gig of RAM, and I've got this and I've got the solid state drive and I've got most of this stuff on the cloud and I've got 573 lines of passwords on my spreadsheet. I'm like, okay. The evolution of the car guy.
It's different. Yeah. I mean,
the only thing I know about my computer is that my microphone doesn't work if I plug in my earbuds.
There's that.
We learned this morning. See, we learned something new about your computer already.
Yes, I did.
But yeah. So.
Madonna mia.
In 5 years, who knows?
Anything else we can think of at the moment, or is that a podcast topic?
No, I think that's. I mean,
any last licks, comments? Anyone care for a mint?
A mint
no, I'm having a chocolate chip cookie with peanut butter chips in it.
Ooh.
It's what's for breakfast, huh?
All right, I had breakfast. This is my morning snack.
Oh, I hate peanut butter.
You hate peanut butter?
I hate peanut butter.
Yeah.
That was one of my hot takes of
more for me
a couple months ago. Ugh.
Yep.
I mean, truly,
more for me.
Like, I'm going to be eating the last one in a second, so I'd have to make more. And it's just a hint of peanut butter, so you really can't tell all the time.
That's a sentence I will never utter ever again. Our dear friend Scott is of the same opinion of peanut butter as Billy, right? He's anti-peanut butter. And several years ago, when we went to Kansas City, Missouri to visit our friend Brian before he went in for his last round of cancer treatments that unfortunately he did not survive. But we went there to visit him and help him kind of get to the hospital and get set up. But his wife, Annette, who we adore dearly, she took us to this mercantile area, an outdoor mall of sorts in Kansas City's heart called Zona Rosa. And there was a fudge shop. And the two of us, of course, were freaking, we turned into 12-year-olds. And I got some quote unquote peanut butter fudge. Okay, cool. And I got it for myself, knowing full well Scott wasn't going to partake of any part of it, but we got some cool stuff that he would like to. And I'm tasting. I'm like, you know what? It's not that potent, for me, because I'm used to peanut butter, right? That's a thing for me. And so I said, try it. It's got peanut butter, but it's a hint of peanut butter. Those were the fateful words that I said, a hint of peanut butter, because I didn't think it was going to be as overwhelming as he bit into it. And he looked, this is the one and only time I've ever seen Scott truly and utterly mad at me. He looked at me and goes, hint of peanut butter. And I'm like, oh shit, he's going to punch me.
There's no such thing as too little peanut butter. You can taste just a hint of it. Like literally, like one little drop in something will ruin something for me.
Well, see, the thing is, I know Riker likes peanut butter.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But I figured that he probably wouldn't try the cookie if he knew that it just didn't have chocolate chips in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't tell him. And I let him eat it. He's like, Mom, these are really good. I'm like, you want another one? Yeah.
Who was this?
Riker.
Okay.
And I didn't tell him what was. I'm like, because he knew I was making chocolate chip cookies, but he didn't see me put the peanut butter chips in them. So I baked them and things like that, and like he was like eyeing them as soon as they came out of the oven. Like he wanted one right then and there. I'm like, honey, it'll fall apart. Give it a couple minutes to cool just a little bit to kind of solidify just a little bit. And then he was like 3/4 of the way eating his first one, and I'm like, he's like, this is really good. I'm like, can you taste the peanut butter? He goes, peanut butter? I'm like, yeah, there's peanut butter chips in there. He's like, no. And then he's like, oh, there it is. But he kept eating it, and then he went and got another one. So,
see, but I don't understand the part where people say, oh, it doesn't really taste like peanut butter, or it doesn't taste like fish. Well, then why are you ordering it? Why would you order fish that doesn't taste like fish?
I would not order fish. That's me personally.
Well, me either, but to me, if you like something, don't order something because it doesn't taste like it. You can never have enough caramel in something. You can never have enough cheese on pizza. You can never have if you like it, it doesn't taste like peanut butter. Well, then why are you ordering it if you like peanut butter?
Well, we got onto this conversation last night while we were gaming about the best type of chocolate chip cookies and things like that, and Randy was saying that his dad would add butterscotch chips to theirs.
Oh, I love butterscotch.
So while we were recording,
I prefer scotch myself, but I suppose you can put butter in it.
Nancy sends me a message and a picture of 2 bags of butterscotch chips. I'm like, and I said, oh, I guess I'm making cookies with butterscotch. She goes, there seems to be a few fans of butterscotch at the table. You do have that industrial mixer, and you do make excellent cookies, even though I can only eat 1 or 2. They make people smile, and life is short. I'm like, yes, I do have butterscotch chips currently in the house. She's like, no reason not to keep more in the pantry. So I take it the next time she's over, which will be, she was over last night. So next Saturday would be the
24th.
24th, and which is 24th, which would be the other campaign. And so it would be the week after that. So that Saturday after that, I guess I'll be getting, unless she delivers.
I'm sorry, I'm distracted over here. Juno has decided that my feet need to be attacked.
Oh, so I would see her May 1st. So unless Sean brings me, well, I'll have butterscotch chips in the house anyway. So I guess this week I'll be making chocolate chip cookies with butterscotch chips in them. So I might be doing a delivery. Billy, I don't know if they'd get to you if I send them through Chris. I'm not sure about that.
That'll work. Yeah. No, they will. If you said these are for Billy, I will not eat any of them because I'm not that kind of guy. If Billy says I don't want them, then all bets are off.
Oh, I want them.
I want them. So,
well, then there you have it. These
Dan,
are for
are
Billy.
You okay with butterscotch?
That's sacred. Daniel?
What?
Are you okay with butterscotch?
Not my favorite.
Okay, so are you okay with peanut butter?
Of course.
Okay. So I'll do
Dan and I are the peanut butter folks in the party.
Okay, so a batch of the chocolate chip peanut butter ones for Chris and Dan on the table, and then butterscotch ones for Chris and Billy on the table. Why, Chris? Why are you getting double cookies?
Because you love
He
me?
likes everything.
Well, of course that's true, but still, come on.
Yeah.
He deserves. If he likes everything,
I'm
he
the
deserves
host.
everything.
You're the host.
I'm the host.
Oh, is that how we're playing this?
Yeah.
And so your
I didn't say it was.
Co-host is making cookies for the host.
I didn't say it was a good plan.
Okay.
All right,
So-
stop it, Juno. Jesus, Juno is like attacking my feet. She's like, "Dad, play with me."
Hey Dan.
You're gonna and that.
Hey, Tanya.
Like bite me.
Hey Dan.
Stop that.
You trying to finish this up?
Could you hit it so Chris can start?
No, I want to hear you do it.
Damn it!
If you're going to take it there, I want to hear you do it.
Let's see if I can do this without effing it up.
This will be fun.
Oh yeah. So Dan, go ahead and hit it. As this has been another episode of FC3's Monkey Business, a product of the Mighty Monkey Corporation, purveyors and producers of the Flower City Comic Con, coming at you like a spider monkey in September of 2021 at the Total Sports Experience. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, because if you follow us, we will lead you to wherever the entertainment is. And that's pretty much about it that we have this week. So there! I got it!
Have a great week. Have a safe week. And we'll talk to you again next week. Tanya, that was awesome. Brilliant. Well done,
Thank
babe.
you.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun.